Estamos en vivo, ladies and gentlemen. We are Longly Boxing en Vivo podcast with Manny Marrero.
Sean El Gringo Hicksa.
Hopper.
Breaking it down like it is, like it should be, like
Como debe de ser.
the fans deserve it. Thank you so much for all your support. Keeps listening to us anywhere you upload
Please.
your favorite podcast.
Please.
That's
Por
where
favor.
we are, Los Tres Locos Amigos. Follow us on social medias. We appreciate your support. ¡Viva México!
Special today.
It is.
Right? So,
Felicidades, todos mexicanos.
Independencia de México.
absolutely.
Weekend.
Weekend Warriors.
Weekend Warrior.
All right. So, for such a special episode, podcast especial, we have the lady in the house. Manny, who do we have with us?
Esmeralda.
La fotógrafa de la gente.
La fotógrafa de la gente. Pero la reina del ring, Esmeralda. Bienvenidos al programa nuevamente.
In the
Very glad to
house.
be back.
This special edition
Bienvenidos.
of Viva Mexico. Thank you so much, Esmeralda. We appreciate you back with us.
And I'm in Tijuana right now.
And
so.
you're in
Woo!
Tijuana.
TJ in the
even
house.
better, in the house.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Not a whole lot's gone down before last time we talked to each other, but I guess there's a lot of news and a lot of stuff going on, and we have a very good, exciting show for you today. Podcast episode 58.
Right. So, what we're going to try to do, keyword is try,
Try.
is
Remember that one.
rank
Oh, my
fighters
God.
that we believe from Mexico are top five for whatever reason. You know, people perception is reality. Whether it's, you know, you feel they were the most talented, they were the most entertaining, most charismatic.
Are you
Maybe
allowed to change at the last minute? Because I'm
You
still
can change
having
as
second.
you're
Go
in,
for
in
it.
mid sentence, and no one will judge you.
I mean, we went
I
through
will.
this.
I will
we
follow
went. We
judgment.
went through this to the Puerto
That's-
Ricans,
that's what
right?
I-
And
that's what I do.
it was just a hard thing, guys. But the reality is we all have our perspective, and there's not a real algorithm that will teach us which one's the best, which one's not. So I just hope you guys don't get offended at some of the things that
Oh,
we're
they will.
going to say today. If you
Yeah.
do, I mean, it's fine. It's okay. It's your perspective too, as well, and I respect that.
Right. No, it's absolutely. Well said, Manny, for once. So,
Another one. That's twice. That's twice. Yes.
in the house,
Vivo.
so yeah, the thing is, you know, going into is, you know, I deal in logic, you know, professionally and also personally. So I want to try to bring some logic, but to a illogical mindset of what you need to do as a fan. You know, fan, that's short for fanatic. You're fanatical. You're really passionate and excited about something, and it doesn't always make sense. So why try to, you know, minimize or limit something that, you know, and quantify something that can be so much more and so much bigger. So I just said, you know, forget it. I threw the numbers out the window and I just went old school. This is who I like, and this is why I like them.
Great
You know,
article, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you
Fantastic
so
piece,
much.
bro.
Yeah, it was
if
really
you guys
good.
haven't
Check
seen
it out, guys.
Check out longlyboxing.com, our website. Great article by the
Superstar
Gringo,
writer.
making it happen. Yes, indeed. Yeah, I gotta agree with some of them, but
All right.
I
Appreciate that.
I mean, some of them are.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
All right. So just kind of touching on real quick, and you know, we want to get to the stars of the hour, which is Esmeralda, Manny, and Hopper, about what their picks are. But again, yeah, you can read the article. It's the greatest Mexican champions, and the approach I had was, you know, not necessarily approach at all as far as numbers, because what I found was when I started the process of trying to calculate numbers and formulate, you know, who had what, it basically broke down to if you had more wins, more knockouts, you're going to get weighted higher, no matter how I try to adjust the numbers.
So how about memorable moments, like, you know, like trilogies, and is that taking consideration in your way that
yeah.
you actually rank
I mean,
them?
that's what I was initially gonna do, and I'll just put it out there, was I was gonna weight it basically off of wins, losses, wins against let's use the word now, thanks to Canelo, premier talent. So basically, you know,
talent.
yeah, premier talent. The zone approved, of course.
The
You know,
zone
so it would have to be, you know, somebody with a belt, so they gained a belt. You know, how many times they were a champion. So I mean, I had it all weighted and everything, and I was like, you know what, this. And it wasn't, you know, it wasn't about the results either. I was like, you know, but this isn't really truly embodying what I feel this weekend is about. You know, what I want this show to be about is just what fighters, you know, get you excited about the sport. You know, all the amazing things that, you know, Mexico has done from the standpoint of boxing. You know, the term Mexican style, when I think that, you know, I'm thinking of excitement, coming forward and, two warriors and just something that, you just can't take your eyes off of.
Yeah.
Right. So that has nothing to do with
And you
numbers,
get
right?
a lot of that with with Mexican boxing.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, my list is and I'll just kind of go starting from 5 to 1. I had Marco Antonio Barrera, big fan of his.
Esmeralda loves that one. Is that right? She's from Tijuana. A little bit backstory.
Yeah.
Están
So
Tijuana.
she said I could actually skip this part if I wanted to.
Partial.
Right. So I'm a big fan of his. Going to kind of something that Manny said, memorable moment for me. Obviously the trilogy was, when I'm speaking of the trilogy, I speak it in the highest regard because to me it is the trilogy of boxing. There's been several amazing trilogies, but to me it ranks right up there, if not the best. Definitely one of the best against Eric Morales.
That's a really good pick, though. That's a
Mhm.
really good pick, though, because when I was growing up and I was watching fights, Barrera would really remind me a lot of the style of El Gran Campeón. And at times I would confuse because I really know who was boxing, who's boxing today. I know my family's always in boxing, but he definitely had that spark to warrior, to not give up, to every time he goes in the ring he gives 200%. And those are the memorable moments we're talking about.
Yeah.
And the thing I loved about Barrera as well was that it seemed like whenever he lost a fight, he quickly built himself back up.
Completely.
So you could never write him off. My biggest claim to fame with Barrera was when he fought the Prince.
Oh,
Prisoner
Nassim
Nassim
Amazing, amazing.
That was an amazing fight.
Yeah, 2001, and that actually was my favorite moment as well. I think a lot of times we have to kind of take a step back and we see how the things ended up, and we forget how we got to that point.
Right.
So
right.
I remember going into it. People see Nassim Hamed coming in on carpets and all oiled up and looking crazy and
It's a show,
contorting
man.
his body.
It's a
But
showtime.
people
This is
forget.
entertaining.
It doesn't seem like he was because he was such a small, frail guy, but that guy had power.
Oh yeah.
So he was putting
Yeah.
people to sleep, right? For the night.
His shots were very solid.
Right.
Like he threw some solid punches.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and ironically, the thing that I like that kind of gets overlooked in that story, for that, amazing night, that amazing fight when they fought, is actually, Emmanuel Stewart was in his corner, and Emmanuel Stewart picked his his I say partner, but his opponent.
Mhm.
He had the option of picking Marquez, but he didn't want to pick Marquez because he felt he was too good of a boxer, and he didn't want to go against a counterpuncher. So he said, well, I just want to have a guy that's going to make, Nassim look good.
Right.
I just want a guy that is not as good of a boxer, just come forward. So that was his mistake, right? Because he underestimated his
Oh,
ability.
absolutely.
So, that story, obviously that just kind of personifies to me, not just Marco Antonio Barrera, but all these fighters that we're going to be talking about tonight is just, never underestimate them. And they are much more than just a come forward, action fighter. They have definitely, layers to them and so much that they bring to the table. So
What's a boxer that sadly enough, but he received a lot of punches, and so although he knew a defense well, but still, I mean, he would not just back out at all. Even when he was like comfortably winning the fights, he still go at it and get punches, punch out, and that's the beauty about that.
right. Absolutely. So yeah, and then, for the other fighters, I'll just throw the names out there because I want to make sure that the other team members get their chance to kind of dig in there because there may be some repetition and maybe not.
Could
But,
be. Who knows?
maybe that's
Who
the beauty of it.
Maybe.
Sabe?
But the other fighters, I'll go ahead and throw them out there, and all I have in such high regard is Eric El Tibre.
Terrible.
Terrible. Roll that R. Roll
Thank
that
you.
R, gringo.
I almost bit my tongue off.
Terrible.
I just ate dinner.
El terrible Morales.
Terrible.
All right, so
He's
yeah,
like the terrible.
yeah.
There you go.
I couldn't even get that out. But
Terrible.
man, he is not terrible. He is fantastic. Like, to me, how, and I mentioned that in the article, is he's just the ultimate, just, badass. Like, just somebody you don't want to mess with. I mean, just the ultimate.
So, quick question for you, Rigo.
Competitor.
For the fans out there that might be listening to us and trying to get a logic to this. So, you feel like someone that apparently, based on what happened and the results, winning that trilogy against El Terrible Morales 2-1, and you still rank him above that person that beat him
Yeah,
twice?
I was getting to that point. The reason why is for
Put you on
one,
the spot.
no, I feel good about it. The reason why is because I felt that he had the bigger win, because he was actually able to do something that I'm sure if you brought it up to him to this day that Marco Antonio Barrera wasn't able to do, and that's beat Pacquiao. Not only beat Pacquiao, but beat him in his prime.
Oh, yep.
Right. So that's, head and shoulders over, and Prince Nassim is the man. Obviously,
yeah.
that was a memorable
That
night, but
time
it's not the same level at all. So I think for that's why I give him the nod. And then also too, like I said, it's not about numbers. I just enjoyed watching him fight. It just the enjoyment, the aggression he showed, and just the heart. Even when it looked like he was in trouble, he would overcome it and make adjustments, and just a phenomenal fighter. And then what I think also made that rivalry so great was the fact that their styles, personalities, one's from Mexico City, one from TJ. I mean, it was truly like
They
it was
really,
rivalry.
personal.
they
Yeah.
really
It was
hate
personal.
each other.
And
Absolutely.
So personal.
Yeah, so
It's so bad.
it wasn't scripted. So like something like that, like I said, I'm all about the genuine. So that to me, it raised him in my eyes as far as a fighter. And then I'll go to quickly the other three, because I want to make sure everybody gets their shine. Is not that we're dismissing these fighters by any means,
Not at all.
but
that was kind of a short speech
know,
on
right?
Morales. That's
Yeah.
fine.
I know,
Alright,
compared to
okay.
Barrera.
Compared to
though.
Barrera, look
Yeah.
at that's
I mean, I'm ahead of
Wait
you.
till I'm next.
She's gonna spend 30 minutes on Eric Morales.
hey, we got to spread it out. Come
Number
on, guys.
one.
He was
Eric
born
Morales.
on.
If you're listening, I love you, Eric.
You know what? Next time I see him, I'm going to be like, oh, yeah, so these guys.
This guy right here.
This Barrera fan.
Yeah,
Este vato de aquí. Oh my God.
I had a stopwatch on. He did like 30 seconds on you.
Seconds right here. Pero con Barrera, casi 10
He
minutos.
started crying.
About your losses.
He only mentioned his losses. In the house.
Oh,
All right, so
3.
yeah, so number 3, it is Juan Manuel Marquez.
Woo!
All right, so amazing. One of the best counter punches, not just out of Mexico, but period. Great technician in the ring, great adjustments. He had a real interesting career, because he always seemed like he was the guy with a chip on his shoulder trying to chase Eric Morales and Marco Antonio Barrera, because they were kind of above him.
They were more popular.
They were
than
more
him early
popular,
on,
and he
yeah.
never really was able to kind of catch up until
he met a certain Filipino,
right, until he found his
his dancing partner.
For life.
Ouch!
Oh, those two guys. Yeah, and then Marquez, I think he's going to come up on a lot of people's list. I know he's definitely going to come up on mine. Marquez is one of my favorite fighters ever from Mexico. I'll touch more on him shortly, but I mean, what else can you say about him? Him and Manny Pacquiao were born for each other.
Yeah, they truly were.
Yeah.
So, for that, those 4 amazing fights, and then obviously the way it ended. And the thing about it, which is, I'll go ahead and say that I am actually a big fan of, Manny Pacquiao, but I never at any point hated any of these guys that I'm referring to. It was
It's just very difficult to say, because I love Manny Pacquiao, to be honest. It's just brought a different style to boxing.
yeah.
But when you got some of these guys, same thing as Barrera and Morales, it's like, I like them both. Who do I root for? And it's just a little
You
bit
find out
difficult
when
to get-
I always usually find out when the fight begins. And then I found myself cheering for this guy. Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm going for him.
Whatever the
last minute instinct.
Yeah.
the way
it's
wind moves
instinct.
you. Yeah, I'm kind of that way too. Honestly, I kind of go into it, and I like that way of just want to see a great fight. And I usually was never disappointed. In fact, I never was. And obviously, like I said again, the way it ended. But not only that, I mean, I know that's how he's remembered. But he did, in fact, he had several other amazing fights. He had 2 amazing fights with Juan Baby Bull Diaz out of Houston. Those were actually some of my favorite fights, and those
Baby
ended dramatically
Bull,
as
yeah.
well. With knockouts and just a lot of back and forth action. So those were amazing fights. One thing that
Beat Barrera.
he beat Barrera. A lot of people would make the argument that I think it was like 2005, 2006 that Barrera was past his prime, so to speak. But hey, a win is still a win, and he was able to get it. And that was actually a controversial fight. I went back and looked at it because there was a not called knockdown.
Knockdown. Yeah.
Yeah, during the fight because his glove did touch the mat, but still, it doesn't. Hey, I like what I like and I like it. So Juan Manuel Marquez, he's definitely the man, and huge fan of his in the ring. Now I know he's been definitely critical of boxers outside the ring, and we'll talk about that later. But I'm just focused on what the guys do in the ring, and that's really all I care about. And then the next one is amazing, legend, icon. All the things you can roll into one as far as the ultimate level of a boxer and what they've done for the sport as far as raising the level of competition and just kind of really establishing, not just making themselves a name, but a brand. Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. and all the things he did, the amazing accomplishments.
Number two.
Right. So loved him, his fights. Even the fights that were controversial for me, because I was a big Sweet Pea Whitaker fan. So when he fought in San Antonio, I know that there was a lot of questions on that one, but like I said, I never at any point was resentful. Like I hated him. I always want the results to go the way they should. But even to this day, when I go back and look at the fight, you can still make an argument on
Inner Wilder.
Yeah, of how the fight went, to kind of the back and forth. I think that I know it came out on Sports Illustrated like the week later, saying it was a robbery. No, we've seen much worse, way worse since then. It was close, and you can make an argument. But on top of that, he's all class. He obviously means a lot to the people there, and how could you not appreciate him? Now, I think the thing that gets brought up, I'll touch on, is the lack of quality of his resume outside of, I'll say, about 8 to 10 fighters. I know he fought the Black Mamba twice. He beat Camacho, which was a great fight. That was probably my favorite, actually.
Yeah.
Melvin Taylor.
Rosario.
Yeah, Rosario. So, and the Taylor one was real controversial too.
That's the memorable one, because that one he was actually losing that fight, and he came in the 12th round and brought the knockout to Mildred Taylor.
San Antonio.
That's
trainer. Taylor's trainer. I remember Lou Duva.
Yeah, Lou Duva.
Pissed off.
Yeah.
That was I just thought about it right now.
That was in where? San Antonio.
Yeah, that was in San Antonio.
Fight I've seen from him.
That fight was
that was nuts. He also had that, and so you talk about historic moments when he filled the Estadio Azteca against Greg Haugen.
Yep.
132,000 Mexicans.
Yeah.
Never seen that before.
That's crazy.
That's a gran
To
campeón.
watch one guy.
And when you listen to, just the footage of it, you don't have to even watch it, but just like the sheer, electricity in the stands from every punch that he's landing, and obviously when the way the fight shifted, and he obviously dropped his opponent, and he went in there, and just the sheer passion that he fights with, and he was calling the guy out, predicting it, so there was some bad blood going into that fight. It was just an amazing event, and not many people could pull that off, and he's probably the only one. And he did it, and he had just such an amazing career, and like I said, he's a legend. But on my list, he's number 2.
Número uno.
In the house is
Vivo
Saul Canelo Alvarez.
El Cash Cow.
All right, so
One.
okay, what I'll
Elaborate,
say,
sir.
The reason why,
that one surprised me.
Yeah, the reason why for me is, I'm always kind of and this is going to sound really strange, the underdog. Like, so my thoughts and mindset on him is kind of shifted because the tidal wave of hate has increased so much. I find myself becoming a Canelo apologist, right? Like, look at his record.
Yeah,
So you tell me that you have forgotten about the Triple G's.
No, not the first one. That was the next one.
Oh, okay, all right.
We can watch it right now if you want.
You forgive him?
No, I want to forgive him. He performed the way he should have. Shout out to Triple G. But no, but the
You got to
thing.
bring that guy up.
Yeah, come on.
Mexican Independence Day weekend.
Come on. All right, so obviously Triple G, but the thing about it is you can only fight who's in front of you. You can only fight who's there, who's available. So you look back in his career, and that's why I pointed out and I put on the article that, once he had his opportunity, going back to 2012, where he fought, Sugar Shane Mosley, we talk about 8 years where he's had quality opponents after quality opponents. Now you can make the argument like, not only it's who you fight, but when you fight them, but you can't help that. like we just said before, Marco Antonio Barrera and Marquez fought. Yeah, was Barrera past his prime? You could argue that, but they still did fight. If he took the fight, he thought he was in a position where he could maybe win. And even though that fight was close, and Canelo's had some, exciting fights. I'm always, super hyped for him. The thing that I also like too, not just being a Canelo apologist, but I'm always and always forever will be what's going to help grow boxing. And,
Right.
he has a way of captivating others like no one else can, even more than El Gran Campeon, right? So in respect to him. So as of right now, they had where the boxing world, quote unquote, was on, freeze, on stop because of he's having legal troubles, right? And he's going back and forth with his promoter just to show the power and influence that he has. So yeah, I think that I support him. I've enjoyed his fights. The build up for his fights are always exciting. The 2 fights with Triple G were great. And what I also like too, that even with all the stuff he has going on as far as distractions with the money and the back and forth and all the chaos that go into being the ultimate cash cow and the pressure, is he's getting better. Defensively.
Every fight he gets better.
Every fight he gets better. That's one thing
Dating
people
back
say
to the
can't take
Mayweather,
away.
yeah.
He's always getting better. Like, I know it wasn't the most exciting fight maybe for some as far as the back and forth action, but to me, where I raised a lot of appreciation was a fight that you and I saw, Manny. We saw it in shout out to Maple Avenue Gym in Dallas. Well, his defense against Jacobs was amazing.
Incredible.
It was like next level.
Next level. And then even at that, Jacobs landed a few punches that he knocks anybody else.
Oh
out with
yeah,
those punches.
he's got power.
Canelo ate him.
Yeah.
Canelo ate those
Schooled
punches.
him completely.
No, his resume.
It's
Only Manny Pacquiao actively can you compare in terms of active boxers with Triple G, Kovalev, Jacobs, Floyd, Cotto,
Well, just keep in mind,
Kirkland.
that's
keep going.
you're talking about 8 division champion Manny Pacquiao, so he has gone through a lot. Although Canelo would be a little bit difficult to get to the 8, but
No, I'm talking about
you
in
see-
terms of opponents on his resume, the people that he's fought. You know how you rank them pound for pound?
Okay.
They want to go by
right.
who's on your resume. The only one that compares with his resume
Oh,
is
it's Pacquiao.
Manny Pacquiao.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll take it a step further. Now, those are great points that you guys bring up. That when we mention other fighters, we're saying like, oh, that's a good fight, and we still don't know the outcome. But with Canelo right now, we're moving him up way high, like Benavides, right? They said, well, what if he fought Benavides? That guy's an animal.
Benavides.
Yeah, but
Benavides.
even in that fight,
Bivol.
yeah, Bivol, even in those fights, you feel like it's Canelo. You never know, and like you have to go to the other higher division.
Yeah, those are bigger guys too.
Yeah.
175.
Right, you have to go
Those are
to
big guys.
much bigger guys.
Canelo's a
Yeah.
small 160,
is.
very
I think
small
he did-
168.
I think he did what
At
he had to do
160, I
in,
think he's perfect at 160.
Yeah,
160
But
is
he's
my
trying to
favorite.
challenge himself. He's trying to.
Well, I mean, I think he did what he had to do to go
Yeah.
up there and challenge Kovalev and go to move up the 175, and he
But see,
accomplished
that's-
what he wanted to do. And Kovalev wasn't anyone that is completely washed
No, 'cause
out. to
he
be
was
honest.
just,
He's not.
and that's funny. I like that you say that because everybody forgets that he just defeated the younger, fresher Anthony Yarde
Yeah.
the fight before, and everybody was saying, "Oh, Kovalev still has it," and knocked him out with a jab. And then fought Canelo next, and then it's funny how boxing fans are.
Yeah.
One fight you're good, and the very next, because Canelo's
Yeah.
fighting him. Nah, that guy's old. That guy got old overnight.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Well, yeah,
he was
that's
just good the last fight, but
That's
Right.
the thing. You hear that a lot. So I think because of that, and I'll say another thing real
So
quick before we
much
pass
hate.
it to the Queen and let her do her thing, is that I was surprised, not just American journalists, those in Latin America, Mexico, but other lists where they had top Mexican fighters. I'm talking about not just 1 to 5, 1 to 8, 1 to 10, 1 to 12, 1 to 15, 1 to 20, and Canelo
Yeah.
wasn't even on the list.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends what you're looking at, and I think if you're looking
If you're looking at
all-time
boxing, I don't see
greatest-
how you can leave them off.
Right.
So
Well,
As
I
far
mean,
as-
it's,
as far- as
it's
far-
the hate. It's probably the hate.
that's
Check
a lot
and
of
see
hate.
if they like
Yeah,
Canelo.
it's
They
the
probably
hate, the
just don't like.
favoritism.
Exactly.
and I'll touch on it as well
Yeah.
when I get to my list.
All right. So thank you
Woo!
guch hope you guys
Good job,
didn't hate it too
Gringo.
much. Hey,
Good
thank
job,
you very much.
Gringo.
I'll be here all night. All right, so pass it to the lady.
Spider says, "No, you're not. You're gonna leave."
Spider's ready to Joe
You ready to
out
go?
the dough. All right, so Esmeralda, you're up, ma'am.
All right. Let's see. I'm glad you included Canelo. I personally didn't include him maybe next year he will be. But I think he's a great fighter. I think he
Oh,
brings
what
so
a
much to the
hater.
boxing world and to
That's what-
Mexico.
Is that
So
one of
he's
the
not
haters
top,
you were
he's
talking
not
about,
top
Grego?
5. We know that.
No.
All right.
Hey, but it's only 5 though, so thank you.
I know, right?
She said maybe next
maybe
year.
6.
Top 6.
Is he
He'd be on
6?
there.
Oh, he's 6.
Ah,
Okay.
Honorable
Okay.
mention.
He'll always be before Barrera and Marquez.
Gotcha.
But
We get it.
my top 5, unfortunately there is an order, but Jose Luis Castillo for me is he's my number 5.
Okay.
He just I felt like I wanted to see more of him. He was a big guy. He was just, to me, he was such a good fighter. When he fought Mayweather, that was for me one of the most memorable ones also. And Corrales, of course.
I actually like Diego Corrales. I mean,
Very-
I almost
Yeah,
hit,
that's
I almost
the
hit
other
myself with the
Very-
ceiling fan jumping up
very-
and down, and then I had to sit down and quiet when Corrales came back.
Very physical fight against Mayweather, Castillo, and Mayweather.
Yeah,
I remember Jose Luis Castillo was very, let's just say, active in the lower region towards Mayweather. I'm surprised he didn't get points taken away on that fight.
Interesting.
No, but that's a good one.
I think he just, those 2 fights with Corrales and the fights with Corrales and Mayweather to me were memorable, and Castillo to me sticks out for that. Like I feel like he just he had to do what he had to do.
Right.
We don't agree with it, but he was like, I got to do what I got to do.
Mm,
Been
Yeah.
there before.
mm.
No, and he's awfully
real.
credited for being the guy that defeated Mayweather. So he gets he has that going for him, and the boxing hardcore fans. And you hear it on
Mm.
the
Do you feel that he
reports.
beat Mayweather, Esmeralda,
the first fight?
on the record?
Dun, dun, dun.
Let me whisper. No, honestly, I'm a fan of Castillo, but I personally didn't feel like he did. And just that, and that's me looking at smaller things and
Right,
kind of really analyzing the fight.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, just because I'm a fan of his, I'm not gonna say he totally deserved it.
Right.
Right.
It's right. It's right for me at least. But my number 4 is Yori Boy Campas.
Yori Boy
Jody Bo
Campas.
Campas.
Man.
I didn't see a lot of his live stuff, like his more like beginning fights. But I remember I grew up being shown his VHSs a lot, his pre-recorded VHSs.
Man.
And I'd go, I'd be like, oh, let me watch this one. And he was an amazing fighter. And I don't know if he's on a lot of people's lists, but he was a really good
No.
fighter.
He has-
He had so many fights.
So
also,
many
to me.
fights, 107
Yeah.
wins.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a
He
that's
had
a great
what,
one.
127 total fights.
Matter of fact, top 10. I would have him top 10.
Yeah, that's-
definitely in my list. I would have
And
had them
just
top
because of
10.
the sheer activity or
Yeah.
wins.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
You
a-
get 100
Exactly,
wins.
yeah.
I
No,
think
it's
you
just
gotta-
anytime you wanted to see boxing, he was always fighting. It's
Yeah,
like,
Boy
oh, okay, there you go
Campas.
again.
He was still
Yeah.
fighting as of
Twice
like
in a
2
month.
years ago. I
Yep,
think.
yep.
He fought 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Yori Boy?
He did,
Yeah,
yeah.
2018.
Yeah, it was.
Fought,
Who's
uh,
fighting
what do you
today,
fight?
Jorge Boy Campas? Oh, again.
Joel Juarez. Yeah,
he's,
there you go.
he's following Navarrete's footstep. I
He's
mean,
fighting-
Navarrete's
I
fighting
mean-
is following his footsteps.
Awesome. That's,
He fought Camacho Jr.
I'm loving this list so
He
far,
did
man.
fought
fight
Camacho
Camacho
and
Jr.
Camacho,
Jr., both of them.
Both of them
Yep.
back-to-back fights. That's a bit right there. That had to have been a bit.
I mean, I'll
Hey,
fight
I'm
my
gonna fight
pops.
your dad. You know what? I'm gonna fight your son now.
Where's your mama at?
For honor, all right? That had to have been.
I'll take the junior.
I know, right?
He also fought Rito Rubalcaba, and I don't know if Rito Rubalcaba is actually from Tijuana, and I see this guy at all the fights. I see him all around TJ Period, and yeah, just being around, knowing Rito Rubalcaba and how I've seen him train and work out, and knowing, like, he told me Yori Boy hits extremely hard. He was like that guy. He's like either I was too weak to take his punches, but he was one of the hardest hitters I encountered, and I was like, oh wow. So
Yeah.
that impressed me for Yori Boy.
Interesting. Good stuff.
Número 3,
Número 3.
Travieso Arce.
El Travieso Arce,
Man,
four-time division champion.
I love that guy.
Yes, Arce.
Yes,
He's gonna have an
sir.
exhibition match with
The third one.
Yeah, I know, right?
Chavez again.
Next week on the 25th.
Oh, it's next week already.
Yep.
Well,
yep.
there you go.
Yeah, on the
Promoting-
25th. It's here. It's actually here in Tijuana.
You know what?
El
Are
Travieso
you going?
Arce.
I love. I don't have
I'm
him,
really
but I love
trying,
that you
but-
have him in your top.
And you know
yes.
what? I was
Somebody
lucky
does.
It
enough.
don't make sense why too.
Esmeralda, I was lucky enough to catch Jorge Travieso Arce. It was in a live fight, but it was towards the end of his career when he fought Nonito Donaire in Houston.
Mhm.
I was there, and I was so happy. He actually brought out the fans. A lot of Mexicanos were there supporting Travieso Arce. I was happy to see that. He lost. I remember I took my Cowboys jersey, and,
Was that his
and
last
I almost
fight?
got killed by all these Texan fans. But no, it wasn't his last fight. His last fight was Johnny Gonzalez.
That's right.
Yeah.
Man, I love that guy.
Yeah.
The
Travieso?
talk about a showman. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
The
No, I mean, he's
lollipop, the
always
horses.
smiling, charismatic
Oh,
guy.
man.
I mean, it was just
Singing.
it was always nice to see this guy fight. To be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Fight with Hussein.
I'm delighted to hear
The
that
blood on
someone's
his
got
face.
him top 5.
Yeah,
Because-
was that your favorite
Number
fight,
3.
Esmeralda?
and
To me,
number
that's the
3.
most memorable. Not just that,
Yeah.
but my godfather was in his corner because he was one of his trainers, and just seeing all that Mexicanness and all that, all that, it was just, it was a really, really moment of pride for me. And I've seen him train in the gym in Zona Norte, and just like he's hilarious. He's hilarious. He dances while hitting the bag, but he gets stuff done. But he's fun. He's a great person. He's hilarious. He's so funny.
Thank you so
So
much.
just the way you say he is, like he really is like that in person.
He
He's
is.
welcoming.
Yes. Oh my
for
goodness.
everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His smile. I
Yeah, I mean-
never part ways with that smile.
Yeah, you couldn't fake the way he is.
No.
I mean how I saw it. So thanks so much for putting him on the list. I mean, I love that guy.
Yeah.
Like he's
But he's not
amazing.
on your top 5. It's
He's not.
Oh man.
Wow. Way to go, Gringo.
Oh, it hurts.
It's okay.
At least I feel a lot better today. Thank you. Someone knows boxing.
Every
here.
list is different.
Oh, somebody knows. That's
Oh man.
Whoa, shots fired at Gringo and Hopper. by
Everyone
Manny.
has a different list.
Well, I'm
Wow.
killing myself
Wow.
because I don't have them.
She said the D word.
I will explain my list too.
Okay.
But number 2,
Bring it.
number 2, of course. It's always a tie with number 1, but I have to number them. So number 2, of course, is El Terrible.
Mhm.
Being able to see him train and see how many rounds he would spar and how many fighters he would have during his sparring, because he would spar over 16 rounds sometimes for his fights. And just being able to see how hard he worked for it in the gym, and being able to see him as a fighter, despite his losses and everything he accomplished in the ring, it was, to me, that makes one of the best memories for me. And Morales will always be my top 2.
Very good.
No, man,
But
that's great.
That's a good one.
and with Pacquiao too, I wasn't a fan of Pacquiao during their fights, but I definitely am a fan of Pacquiao now. So I had to pick back then. I had to pick Team Terrible. But no, those losses to Pacquiao also were memorable to me. I thought they were such great fights.
Yeah.
Number 1, of course, is the one, the only, the Julio Cesar Chavez
El gran
Jr. No, I'm just
campeón.
joking, Senior.
Whoa.
I looked at the TV. I'm like, what?
I looked at the door. I was like, it's time to go.
Oh,
Well,
gran
at
campeón.
At least we have one guy on our top
I
5 that are
know.
common. Me and you, Esmeralda.
No, that's
One
okay.
common top 5.
Oh, goodness.
My list is, and when I was thinking of this, I was like, oh wow, like Jose
It's hard.
Morales, who
It's
is
hard.
It
Eric's
is.
father, he trained 4 of these fighters, and I'm like, that's unbelievable. Obviously,
Greatest
he trained with
trainer out of
Eric
Mexico.
Morales,
Then.
but yes, Travieso, Yori Boy Campas, and Jose Luis Castillo at the beginning of his career. And I was like, oh wow. I was like, okay, so I was like, this is my solid list then. This is what I'm going with,
I
But-
say, go,
That's good
go with the
stuff.
flow. Go with
Can't
the
go
flow.
wrong
Good
with
stuff.
that.
Love it. Loved it.
Thank you for sharing, ma'am.
Bibo.
That was awesome.
Loved it.
Who's next?
Who's next? Moi?
It's moi is up. Yes.
Oh, my goodness. All
Somehow
right,
Coto's
so-
gonna get on the list.
All right. Let's see. Miguel Cotto, Trinidad.
We did that already.
Macho
Didn't we
Camacho.
do that? No, I had 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I had a change of hearts with this one. I had to move them up a little bit, and then I told you guys. So I'm driving
Can't
home.
wait to hear it. I
The
wanna
four
hear
went to the 4 went to 5th. The 5th went to 6, and the 5th went to 4. So anyway,
Stay
I had to with a lot of pain in my heart. I had to put outside of my top 5 Marco Antonio Barrera. I am a huge, amazing fan, but on my 5th spot, and I think that it's worthy of that and more. For me, I have Eric El Terrible Morales, 4-time divisional champion. Great memories with battling
course.
with Marco Antonio Barreras. Talked to you about what I felt at the beginning, and I feel like he just went off and did something extra that Barrera couldn't do. Get that 4 divisional champions. The only thing I regret about Eric El Terrible Morales is that we couldn't see him fight Juan Manuel Marquez.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I'm like, my
But
goodness, that would have actually put him ahead of the one that I moved from 5th to 4th as I'm driving here. Number 4 for me is Juan Manuel Marquez. Now listen to this.
Great pick.
Another 4 divisional champion.
I respect it.
Yeah, and he had the opportunity twice to be a 5th divisional champion against Pacquiao and Bradley. And I think for me, at that particular, based on that, what happened is a lot of these lightweights always look forward to go to the welterweight's very rich division.
That's the money division.
And that's the money division.
And the heavyweights.
It kind of surpassed the heavyweights for a while. I think heavyweights kind of coming back. But, I mean, he went out there and tried that. And he actually left still having some stuff in his tank.
Standing.
He was getting beaten brutally by Pacquiao. And, I get it. This is boxing. It's right to the minute, right at the 12th round. If there is time left, one punch can make a difference. And he did it. He practiced that shot over and over and over. He finally redeemed himself by beating his nemesis,
His rival.
His
And
rival.
they didn't want to give him no amount of money. Gave him
Exactly. No one gave him a shot. But as a matter of fact, the way he put him to sleep,
Was
no
amazing.
one's ever done that to Manny Pacquiao.
He
Put
turned him
to
into a
sleep.
meme.
And out of
He
nowhere.
felt like a sack of potatoes.
Oh,
I know,
man.
right?
It's
It
like
was like the beach meme.
You were
and
scared to cheer at first. You're like,
That
oh crap,
replay
is
was
he okay?
insane.
I'm like, wow. I mean, the way he landed, it was just, that's one of the most memorable moments. Although I didn't like the whole fiasco and the whole thing he did by, drinking his pee and HBO.
Hey, it worked.
HBO
Maybe
and
it
fight
helped him.
against Mayweather. I don't think it helped against Mayweather, but I think he
Well,
went.
Mayweather did come in super overweight as well.
But I mean,
broke him off.
that's the
what
way
he does,
That's what he
yeah.
does. So, but I think that Juan Manuel Marquez actually did a lot more than his other guys did. And even though Juan Manuel Marquez fought Marco Antonio Barrera right when he was like always like coming down from his peak, so he didn't really get him at the peak. So, I mean, it happened. That's the way it is. But I just wish once again that I would have been able to see El Morales and Juan Manuel Marquez at one given point, but it never did happen. Number 3.
I think if Marquez would have fought Morales,
Mhm.
I want to say
Oh,
that fight would have been bigger, more action than Barrera and Morales.
whoa! You gotta,
wow.
But
Yeah.
if you think the hatred between Marco Antonio Barrera
So there was a lot of hatred
and Eddie
there?
Morales is bad, it's I think slightly worse with Marquez. So I think if that fight would have happened, that would have been
What do
fight
you
for sure.
think then that never happened? Because I never understood that. There was opportunities out there. I just didn't know why.
Well, I think it's because early on they wouldn't fight Marquez, and then once Marquez's popularity was elevated because of the Manny Pacquiao fights and his other wins, Marquez kind of gave him the cold shoulder and returned the favor.
Okay.
You know what, you were
You're
being a
down
douche
there,
to
I'm
me.
here.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
that's-
going to be a douche to you. I think that's
Mhm.
that's my perception at least.
Right.
That's what I take from the whole situation because
I agree.
the quartet of Barrera, Morales, Pacquiao, and Marquez. The only fight that didn't happen was the Morales.
Yeah,
and-
that's the only
and that's
one.
the only one. Everybody else fought each other, and I think it was more personal. It was like, oh, you didn't want to give it to me when I was coming up. Why
So
should
I'm
I
not gonna
give it
give
to
it to you now.
when
No,
I'm already at a
yeah,
high
makes
elevated
sense.
position?
that's a great point, Esmeralda. So you're saying, and I love what you're saying too, Hopper and Manny, that it was actually to the point where they hated each other even more than Barrera Morales. So to the point where they just couldn't even get a fight made because the hatred was so
It's just a
intense.
rivalry with your compatriots too,
Wow.
and they're
Yeah.
Mexican.
when you have that
That's why
rivalry,
that's
especially
why
that
they say
personal rivalry.
Yeah.
worst rivalry for a Mexican is another Mexican.
Yeah, it's a
El peor enemigo del
El
mexicano.
enemigo mexicano es el
Otro
mexicano.
mexicano. Otro
mames,
pinche
güey.
mexicano. Chinga.
No, amamos la raza y luego nos da unas chelas.
¿Verdad? Number 3.
Oh, number 3. This is a very interesting one, and I love this pick. It was unanimous at the time. I thought about it.
Unanimous with yourself?
Yeah, with myself, me, myself, and I.
I like
but
this.
I like that. I like that it was unanimous.
Hey,
I would have been worried if there was a mixed decision. If there was a controversial. Well, we're on a stalemate. Give us a few. We're on the clock.
Dave, ready?
Wow.
All right, so my number 3rd pick is Salvador Sanchez.
Ooh,
I
nice.
mean, guys, he
Finally,
racked
somebody
up-
mentions
He
him.
racked up
He's on
33
my
and
list.
1.
Yeah.
He's
I
on
mean,
my list.
he before his 21st birthday, he just was amazing. One of the best things coming out the bantamweight. Unfortunately, I mean, we could have seen a lot of stuff from him.
tragic.
Unfortunately, that tragic car accident.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I can remember is that fury and that rivalry between the Mexicans and Puerto Ricans when he actually fought Wilfredo
Wilfredo Gomez.
Bazooka Gomez. That's
Unbeaten
just a
at the
memorable
time.
moment. Bazooka Gomez was considering the biggest star that ever wears boxing gloves inside a boxing ring everywhere, and he actually just really came in and showed the potential. I think if that tragic accident would have not happened, I think we would have seen him escalate to a different level. And for that,
Definitely.
I give him my honorary 3rd spot into that.
Yeah, I know a lot of lists that I saw, across online and that I read that they had him like in the top 3 easily.
Yeah, easy.
Somewhere even one.
Yeah, I mean he beat
Yeah,
people.
some
He beat people like Ruben
overtime they
Castillo,
had him.
Patrick Ford, Roberto
Yeah.
Castaño. I mean Azuma Nelson.
Carter, Little
That
Red
fight,
Lopez.
that exactly. So
That was before anybody knew that Azuma was going to be that
Exactly.
great. He went in there and pieced them up.
Yep. So for that, and much respect to all of those who didn't make my list, but for that number 3 is
Oh, they're hot
Salvador
too.
Sanchez.
No, they're mad. They're gonna eat you up on
Unanimously. Número 2, el gran campeón. I mean, I'm not doing this because I hate or not. I love el gran campeón. I love what he did in 80s and 90s, and the true champion
He
that
beat
there is.
Camacho, didn't he? That's
Oh,
why you
and
put
it
him
was
number
fine.
2.
It was
That's
really
why he's
good.
number 2 on your list.
No, it's not. It's not. I think you'll love my number 1, but number 2, I mean, honestly, my memorable moment is. My memorable fight with him is when actually we talked about when he beat Meldrick Taylor. He showed truly that he's a warrior. I'm not giving up. I'm losing the fight. Heck, I'm losing the fight. I'm getting this
Hell.
guy. How many minutes I have
Mexican
left?
style.
I got him 50 seconds left, 10 seconds left.
more
Who
than
cares?
enough.
I got 10 seconds left.
I'm gonna
I
get
got
him.
one punch. I got some gloves on
Here
me.
I
I am
come.
talented.
He
Boom.
was counting out with 3
I
seconds
Vengo.
left.
Yeah,
3
exactly.
seconds.
Well, he started kind of getting into the corner around the 10 second, and then when 5 or 4 seconds, he kind of landed that punch. But Gran Campeón really showed. No one really. There's a lot of people don't like his the attitude, the way he kind of handled his career. But hey, listen. That's just the way he wanted to promote and market himself. And to be honest, that doesn't take away from the fact how talented you are. And did he fought a bunch of taxi driver's son? I mean, it's fine, but but the fact of the matter is that he actually proved himself on the spotlight, and that is number 2. Mi número 1.
Number 1.
And I debated on this one a lot because there's someone I'll talk a little bit about him. But número 1, it's going to be the one and only Saúl El Canelo Alvarez.
Nice.
He's still
Good
alive.
job.
He's still
You
alive,
and-
and
you
I'm not a
and
hater.
Gringo.
I'm not a hater. He still
I didn't expect
has
that.
a lot to
No.
prove. Another great champion. What he's going
It's a
for
setup.
his
What's your angle here, man?
he's going for his 15th title.
I'm suspicious.
He's going for
here.
his 15th title, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken. He's got 14 so far, including
Yes.
lineals and including all this other world champions, not the silver or not, but in Ring Magazine. But 14 going into his 15, and he still has a lot to prove. He's still like going into his peak. I mean, this guy, no one can beat this guy in the middle, super middleweight, even in the light heavyweights. I just don't think. I think he can give a great battle. I don't think he'll move up and fight all these guys, Birdie B. No, these other guys up there,
big
Bivol
guys,
up there.
big guys.
But I think that at this particular time, between 150 and a matter of fact, if he can make 147, no one can touch him. I think it's difficult.
Yeah.
But
He might
between the
140.
150s to 160, he is unbeatable. Now, one of the guys that I actually had at one point when you guys, we started deciding to do this show is, one of the guys I had number 1 is I can't take away from Ruben Olivares.
Yes.
Ruben
Good
Olivares, with a lot
job.
of respect
Yeah.
to that. I mean, this is a guy that dominated the bantamweights when it was like huge.
That's true.
From
When
the
there was a lot of
65s to the
competition.
75. He proved himself to
WBC,
be
WBA bantamweight
Oh,
champion.
my goodness.
WBC, WBA featherweight champion.
absolutely
Hall
so.
of Fame already.
Yep, indeed. And another guy that I watch a lot of them because there's a lot of British beef and battles between this Mexican, a lot of British fighters such as Howard Winstone and Welshman, and that is Vicente Saldivar.
Saldivar.
This is another great guy. I had to put him
Featherweight
away, but mad love for them for what they did, and I still enjoy watching their fights, even though if it wasn't in my area. Damas y caballeros, esto fue Miss Uno Cinco. I'm glad you're proud of me.
No, that was really a great list. That was really
actually.
good.
I was prepared to say, to be honest, I was
You were about to say, man,
stupid list.
man, get out of
I was ready
here.
to say, wow,
Is it better than the Puerto Rican one?
It was a great list,
Okay,
actually,
thank you. I
man.
appreciate
No,
you.
it's- I'll say, yeah,
That was a
it's
good
great.
one.
I've actually liked all the list, and I love
Pleasantly
your
surprised.
Thank you. Appreciate
I
you.
was
It's really
so
good.
ready to dismiss it. I was so ready, but no.
So what do you got?
Good.
What-
Oh,
what do you-
my
what do
turn,
you-
huh?
What do you got?
All right. Well, let's
Last
see.
but not least,
Woo!
Hopper Dominguez.
Viva!
Oh,
Oh, viva Mexico!
in the house.
I want to. All right. Well, number 5. You guys didn't mention this person. Ricardo Finito Lopez.
Oh, Elfino Lopez.
Number
Nice.
5. I have him
Good.
as number 5. I know the knock on him is that he never really had that rivalry to elevate his stock status, but 50,
Good.
51-0, 38 knockouts.
Yeah.
And he's mainly on here because he had 22 title defenses. 22 title defenses, and he went undefeated in his career. No, and then the knock on Finito was because, he didn't have much competition. They said the same thing about the Klitschko's when they dominated the heavyweight division. Don't knock a division because he separates himself from the pack. It was the division and then Finito Lopez. And for that, number 5, hey, he's on my
So
list.
I'm surprised, but that's a really good
No, that's-
pick.
that's-
and you're
that's really a good
absolutely
one.
right, because the reality is it's not that memorable moment of a trilogy.
Yeah, he doesn't have a
He
right.
doesn't have the
closest.
rivalry.
The closest thing he had was when
Is it
he
the
fought
two?
he
Yeah.
fought what was it? Was it Alex Sanchez? Rosendo Alvarez.
Alvarez.
Yeah, Rosendo Alvarez. Yeah, he fought him twice, and that's the closest thing he had on there. Number 4, another gentleman. No, I didn't hear mentioned in anybody's list. Carlos Zarate.
Zarate.
66-4, 66 wins,
Yep.
63 knockouts.
Yeah. Yep.
That's insane.
That is.
WBC bantamweight champion. And the thing with Zarate, he has one of the biggest what ifs in Mexican boxing. What if he doesn't take those 7 years off in the middle of his career?
And that's what
when he fought
yeah.
Lupe Pintor. And the backstory on that is that Zarate had already established himself as the goods in boxing even before that fight with Lupe. He's remembered more for that fight with Zamor. And I like what they did in this fight because they sidestepped the boxing organizations to avoid the fees, so they didn't fight for championship belts. Sneaky,
Smart.
Yeah. And then he fought Lupe Pintor, and they robbed him. And I don't throw that term out too loosely, but it's straight robbery. Zarate easily won by 9 points, at least 10, 9. I mean, just watch it. He was so
David
freaking
Moretti
pissed
was
off. Yeah,
judging
he was the judge.
Dave Morrell.
He took 7 years off, came back. He couldn't recapture the magic. He lost eventually to 2 future Hall of Famers, Fennec and Daniel Zaragoza. But Zarate, number 4, 66
went old
wins,
school there.
63
I like
knockouts.
that.
Yeah, no.
Actually, as a matter of fact, a lot of people, when I kind of research and look at a couple things, a lot of people had him around that spot.
Yeah,
he's definitely
high.
worthy of that.
He's regarded highly.
Yep.
Oh
yep,
yeah,
indeed.
all these guys are Hall of Fame induction
they're just-
guys.
yep,
You know.
Yep.
So, number 3 on my list, Juan Manuel Marquez.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I had to put this guy
You
up here.
have to.
I consider him personally the greatest counterpuncher that Mexico has ever produced.
Indeed.
Even better than Salvador?
Not
Yes, in
better
terms
than
of counterpuncher. Yeah, in terms of counterpuncher, especially for, I hate to even say it like this, but in terms of just longevity.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
longevity, and then just the elite competition that he had. I know Barrera and Morales are probably a little more popular than Juanma, but I mean, it's not a popularity contest. In my opinion, he separated himself from that trio mainly because of his battles with Pacquiao. Pacquiao, he pummeled Morales. He beat Barrera. He stopped him in 11th rounds, but he never did that with Marcus. And it's debatable that Marcus won each of those fights until he finally knocked him out. And that's why I think he kind of separated himself from Barrera and Morales. So that's why I put him number 3. I mean, Marquez and Pacquiao, they went together, man, so well.
Yeah.
Like Gringo and food.
No, it's
That's a hell of a mix.
That's a great
Time for that dinner
competition.
bell.
Yeah, no, I mean, he
Ring-a-ding-ding.
fought Manu Medina in 2003, a five-time world champion. He beat Barrera. The Lineo junior lightweight champion at the
Junior
time was
champion,
Joel
yeah.
Casamayor,
Mhm.
destroyed Baby Boo Diaz. And Tim Bradley's his loss to Tim Bradley is what elevates Tim Bradley's name,
Right.
not the other way around. If Marcus would have beat Tim Bradley, he would have just been another dude. In
But that
his
was a very
resume.
good close fight.
It
It's
was
just
a hair by hair. It was by a hair,
Very,
yeah.
very, very. I mean, honestly, if you ask me,
No,
I,
that's-
had it.
Bradley had
I
the-
was
yeah, they
leaning
had-
towards Marquez that night.
Yeah.
But judges
And-
went on to Bradley, and I think Bradley had more momentum.
And
That's
then he
probably-
has the thing I love about Marcus was he boxed for 21 years. That's a hell of a long
Oh, yeah.
time in boxing.
and he's
but
still
he
still
had
left in
that-
good shape though.
He had that Mexican style to a T where watching him fight, I would always wonder if it was wise to knock him down because he was going to get back up and then B, he's going to come at you. So whenever he was hurt, his instinct was to fight. You know, he had astonishing career. I can't say enough about Juan Manuel Marquez, one of my favorite fighters ever. Number 3. Now, number 2 on my list, I have to put him here, Salvador Sanchez.
Yes, sir.
I had to put him on there, man. Remember earlier I mentioned with Carlos Zarate having one of the biggest what ifs? Well, I think Salvador Sanchez has the biggest what if. What if fate doesn't intervene, you know, and take,
It's a
take
what
the
if, man? It's
23-year-old
just, you know.
phenom way too early to be regarded as Mexican boxing royalty so young. It's just such cruel fate. He succeeded where Zarate couldn't, and he beat Wilfredo Gomez. Defeated Little Red Lopez in the 13th round.
He dismantled Danny
he
Lopez.
defended
completely,
that
like,
belt.
Dismantled
Yep.
it. He like swept the floor with him, and he was like a heavy favorite at that time.
He defended it 9 times against Lopez again, Laporte, and Azuma Nelson, and then 3 weeks after that fight with Azuma, well, that's what happened, a tragic car crash. But the thing, an interesting nugget about Salvador Sanchez is I was researching some more, was he was already in talks about retirement at such a young age because he felt he was already accomplished in boxing and he wanted to challenge himself in different areas. He wanted to study to become a doctor or something like that. So he was retirement or moving on to different challenges was already in his head, and then that happened, man. Heartbreaking case.
Definitely.
Yeah. Now, number 1, Canelo.
El gran campeón has to be.
Has to be.
Ah, para ti.
Julio
Ah,
Cesar
huevo.
Chavez has to be number. Julio Cesar Chavez has to be number 1. I mean, okay, I've resaid it. Enough said. He's
Which
number
one? Which Chavez? No.
Junior.
Stop it, Esmeralda. Stop it.
There you go. Pick it on me. No, but yes, Chavez, el gran campeón mexicano. I can't tell you anything you don't already know about him. He's the standard for which all Mexican fighters are judged. He's at 130 pounds. He was android, godlike. At 135, he was indestructible. At 140, one of the best. I mean, at 147, let's not talk about that. But at the other division, he was a stud. And
He's actually the example I always give of when you move up too much.
yeah, you move up a little too much. 140, 147. All right, he was, all right, a little average. Yeah, it's all right. We gotta call it what it is. But at 130, 135, unbeatable. At 140, Hall of Fame. 147, all right. Well,
Yeah,
All right,
when you
that's
talk
a little
about
too
body punchers, he comes to mind. You talk about
ferocious chin, the whole package,
yeah, everything.
everything. And
I don't want to ruin your moment, but I wish that Chavez would be a little bit younger, that he could have at least faced some of these, top, Walters.
now.
Well,
how much younger? Like
Trinidad era.
Oh,
I mean,
in
I
the
think he was a
Trinidad
little
era?
bit just too old when Trinidad was
Yeah,
actually up
he
and
was
coming. He was never
young.
going to get a fight. Or even Cotto, or even any of these guys that
That would've been cool.
Yeah, and that would have been pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I don't think that would have added more to his legacy. I mean, he did what he had to do in his time. That's
Yeah.
it.
And
I mean, gran campeón.
Gran campeón. That's
No
all I can say,
hate.
Number
Just-
one.
just-
My
Good
honorable
question for you
honorable
guys.
mention. My honorable mentions. Real quick, hold on, Mr. Brown. Honorable mention, Canelo. I didn't put him on this list. You guys surprised about that or what?
I am.
Thought I'd
I
have
was
him
going
number
about to
one,
ask
number
you.
two,
So
number
why
three, number
why
four.
I'm
haven't
shocked.
you?
the thing
Is it because he's still active?
Yes, exactly. Because
So
he's
this
still
is an active live
He's
list
still
for
he's
you.
still active, and his career's not over yet. And I think a better gauge is when he retired and see how his career stacks up with
But do
everybody.
you think
Because
that right now what Canelo has
yeah.
done has even gotten close or surpassed what Chavez did?
What Chavez has done,
Surpassing,
it's gonna
no.
be hard. It's gonna be
Yeah.
hard for surpass Chavez because Chavez captured the imagination of the Mexican public like nobody else will ever have. You didn't have anybody hate, any Mexican hate on Chavez, like the way they make that Canelo has the Mexicans divided at times. I don't know why. It's, I guess, ginger hair, the white complexion. I have no idea, but it's gonna be hard just because of the fans' affection for Chavez and all the hate
It's
that
the
Canelo
loyalty.
catches. Yeah, and
Chavez
yes,
has such a loyal fan base. Like some are even loyal to his son, which is understandable maybe, but is Chavez just he gained Mexico's loyalty. Like he just gained it, and every Mexican
So they
American
wouldn't
also.
accept, they
and
wouldn't
he
accept
had the-
anyone else outside of Chavez to be. I mean, it'll be
No,
like
and he
it'll
was-
be like a LeBron and Jordan talk on
debate
basketball
ever.
debate.
And
Is that
that's
is that-
exactly it. And the thing about Chavez is, well, he was, I want to say he was fortunate to not be in the social media age. I think that's affecting things greatly as well, because Canelo, for better or worse, we're in the social media age where information or just everything is captured by phone. And I think in those times, a lot of things is probably best left unwritten or untalked about it. But yeah, so yeah, he's number one. Canelo is honorable mention. Eric Morales, obviously honorable mention. Ruben Olivares, you touched on him, Manny. Miguel Cantó as well.
Canto.
I have him
That's a
on
good
the
one.
honorable mention, and Vicente Saldivar. Yeah, those are my honorable mentions.
Man, a great list. Esmeralda, you had a question?
Yeah, one of my first memories when I was very young was watching De La Hoya and Chavez, and I wanted to know how you guys felt watching that fight, and
Which fight?
just the emotion. Julio Cesar Chavez and De La Hoya.
Oh, De La Hoya.
All right.
I mean,
Well,
I remember when I saw that.
Go ahead,
I was
Hopper,
mad.
because
I
you
was
got two
angry.
big time named
Cried.
Mexicans right now there. What's your feelings about De La
it's,
Hoya's, his legacy?
And
that he's
I think
building?
everybody at the time kind of had the same emotions. Like you hated De La Hoya because he just beat El Gran
Still do.
Campeón.
No, I'm just playing.
Yeah, you're like, you kind of hated him, but then you're like, oh, all right.
It's a
you
new
get over it
era.
a little bit.
It's like the new era.
You get over
it's
it.
like you
but
passed the baton.
you get
to
over,
the new
but
guy.
It still hurts, though. You know,
It still hurts.
It still hurts. and
Ouch!
it's still,
That thorn's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanna.
So-
It does hurt. Yeah.
it did sting, and then you realize, all right, well, boxers eventually, Father Time is undefeated, so now we got to support the next young guy. And De La Hoya
But
just
no
passed.
supporting Junior then.
No, of course. Oh, well, I've supported Junior to the fullest. I've gone to many of his fights. I
Just
went to.
knucklehead.
He's fighting
Yeah.
next week,
Yeah.
I won't go to that fight, but I will.
He's fighting under
but you
the
can order it on some
yeah.
channel, I believe.
What is it? I forgot.
on exhibition. He's fighting under his dad undercard, right?
I believe it's his promotion company. I believe he's fighting on one of the undercards under, is it Casares or something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a great point you brought up, Esmeralda, and kind of a segue to another thing I want to ask you guys to kind of close things out. Now, we talked about, guys, amazing fighters, warriors that, their days of, long gone, other than, a few, active. Canelo's clearly still active. But how do you feel about talking about passing the baton with the De La Hoya, El Gran Campeón fight? Like, do you feel like there's guys that you could see maybe that you kind of eye as, hey, this guy could be maybe a Mexican legend, or is there anybody that, or you don't have any inkling that anybody's like that at all? Esmeralda and then Hopper?
You go first, Hopper.
Go ahead, Esmeralda. I took the last one.
You know what? It's a great question. Honestly,
Just be honest.
I'm always gonna root for Tijuana, and I'm always gonna root, not for the FM. No, I'm always gonna root for Tijuana. And I think
That's funny.
honestly, I have high hopes for him, and I really do feel with the guidance that he has under Morales, he can accomplish great things. Is Jaime Munguia. That's just me. That's just my decision. I mean, I have high hopes for him, and I really think he's someone that can not surpass the legends, but I think he's someone that will be named in that top 10, possibly top 7 eventually.
No, that's what I didn't expect that name, but yeah, thank you for that. For me, and again, I'm gringo as hell, but
Gringo.
like the one that I look upon as far as like I kind of have I look at them in a higher regard, so to speak. Like I view them in a higher light in regard to the other current fighters today. Other than Canelo, of course, but Burchelt. I mean,
Alacran.
I have a high opinion of him, and
I have a high opinion of El Gallo Estrada.
Oh, Gallo Estrada.
Yeah, Gallo Estrada,
and
there you go.
If he's able to beat Chocolatito or get that fight again and beat him convincingly, that's going to elevate him. Because the quartet of him, Sorongsubai, and Cuadras, when they were going at it, that was pretty good. Some pretty good matchups when the little guys were. And another guy who I had really high hopes for as well, as in terms of Mexicano, El Zurdo Ramirez, but he got into that legal with